evening and welcome to the Arizona Commission for the Deaf and the Hard of Hearing board meeting. Today is February 20th, 2025. We will call the meeting to order at 4:33 p.m. Kyla, can you start us off with a roll call, please? Lead the way.
Sure. Commissioner O'Rourke,
Here.
Commissioner Madsen,
Maybe we can circle back to him.
sure. Commissioner Herron,
Here.
okay. Commissioner Kidd,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yeah.
Commissioner Williams,
Here.
Commissioner Swenson,
Here.
Commissioner Venkatesh, Commissioner Cohen,
Here.
Commissioner Bulmarsich, Commissioner Goodstein, Commissioner St. Clair,
Everybody. Here.
and then one more time for Commissioner Madsen.
Here.
An ACDHH staff present, Nikki Sukup,
I'm here.
Suke Nagel,
I'm here.
Carmen Greensmith,
Here.
Victoria Vaughn,
Here.
myself, Kyla Dalton Nava, and then our Assistant Attorney General, Elise Phelan.
I'm here.
Perfect, and I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Kyla. Now we're going to entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the February 4th meeting. Any motions on the floor? And Dustin, would be helpful if you moved your camera down a little bit. Would it be helpful? Yeah. I want to make sure the interpreter can see me. Do we have a motion on the floor to approve the February 4th meeting minutes?
I so move that we accept the meeting minutes from February 4th, 2024, as written.
2024?
Oh, goodness, 2025. I'm still in the past. Thank you for clarifying.
I feel ya. We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Herron to approve the February 4th, 2025 meeting minutes. Do we have a second? Commissioner Bulmarsich and Commissioner Swenson both seconded that. Motion carries. Thank you. Next is my chair's report. I'm happy to say that we are finally meeting today for a regular board meeting. The last several months have been very busy, and I want to take the time to thank every member of the board for your perseverance and patience as we navigated transitions. After chatting with Kyla this afternoon, in order to make her job easier, we want to secure CART and interpreters for the upcoming meetings. You'll see on the agenda It's agenda item where it's agenda item number 8, future meeting dates and locations. We would like to have that agenda item moved up to after the legislative update. That way we'll have time to talk about board meeting dates and locations, whether they'll be hybrid, whether we will continue to meet on Zoom, or if we will switch to in-person meetings. I want us to take the time to think about that. So when we get to that agenda item, we can talk about how we'll meet, and then we can secure those meeting dates and potential locations, and you'll have a better idea of our schedule for the remainder of the year. That's it for me. I'm now going to turn the time over to our interim executive director, Nikki Sukup, who will be giving interim executive director updates. The floor is yours, and I'm going to turn my camera off during your updates. Thank you, Madam Chair Cienko. Hello, Commission and board members. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to share my updates with you all about what our agency has been up to. Before I get started with my updates, I want to recognize that this is my third week as interim executive director, only my third week in this role. I want to recognize Sherry Collins for her nearly 27 years of executive director leadership for the state of Arizona and the legacy that she leaves behind. We look forward to continuing and expanding the work that has been done to meet future needs in our community. And we wish her the best in her new role. It was announced fairly recently that she will be the executive director of Deaf Seniors of America. So congratulations to her. As for our agency and agency updates, during this interim period, I will focus on continuing with our strategic plan and providing stability to the agency. We'll be focusing on our agency goals and priorities, and our commitment is to continue to provide great work for the community, who is the heart of what we do. The team has taken some time to look at their whys, why they're here, and why they're doing this important work. That is an ongoing discussion that we've been having internally. In January, the governor released her executive budget proposal for the legislature, and we have been keeping an eye on this key benchmark of what our fiscal year 2026 would potentially look like. We are tracking the budget, which is a flat budget where we will be appropriated 5 million like we were last year. $5,470,800. For this next fiscal year, we will be appropriated the same amount that we were appropriated last year. In our request package, we asked for supplemental funding for the Support Service Provider Program, which is this program for the deaf-blind community, and the governor did not include that in her budget as a supplementary amount. We will still receive that $192,000 though, which means we will now be looking at potential legislative work. And we're looking for legislators to support our ask and to include some funding in the final package before the end of legislative session. I will say more about that when I get to my legislative update. In December, the interpreter licensure went through regulatory rules and went through the code cleanup process. That information is ready to be shared, and the interpreter licensure committee will be meeting tomorrow. And after that meeting, the new regulations will be posted online. Our outstanding team continues to receive requests for training to provide education in areas ranging from medical, assistive technology, interpreter recruitment, professional development, and family services. We also recently announced the new Interpreter Launchpad Apprenticeship Program, which we are so excited about that, which we are so excited about. We will share more information about that at the next meeting. Some larger events that have happened quite recently. One was the Walk for Hearing. It was a successful event that our team was a part of. There were over 400 participants and walkers, and I understand that over $40,000 was raised. And our team was honored to be a part of that annual event. Another event that has been meeting some growing needs is the Smoke Alarm Walk. We've been partnering with the Arizona Burn Foundation as they have been disseminating free smoke alarms to community members, those who are deaf and hard of hearing or deafblind at no cost. We have been a part of their community walks where they go to the homes of community members and install a smoke alarm in their home. We started last fall in Surprise, and thanks to the popularity of that event, we hosted an event in Prescott and Prescott Valley. That event was also a success, and we will be returning to Surprise. And I understand that the community in Tucson is interested in a smoke alarm walk, and we are keeping a waiting list, and we'll keep you posted on when that event will happen. Those are some key updates that I wanted to share with you about the agency. Now I will move on to legislative updates. I'll start with things at the state level. First, we have a Democratic governor with a majority Republican legislature. It'll be interesting to see what happens with bills that pass. It seems like things have been going well. With access funding and cochlear implant coverage and speech therapy, a bill has gone through the Senate and things are looking good. We continue to keep an eye on those bills, and we're also looking at how things happening at the federal level could make an impact on state level politics. It's still early in the session, One of our priorities right now at the state level is the SSP program and funding for co-navigators. On March 5th, an event will happen that we've been planning for some time. There will be a Meet the Legislator Day for the deaf-blind community at the Capitol. This will be the first event of its kind where the deaf-blind community will have the opportunity to meet with their legislator and see what's happening down at the Capitol. There are potentially community members who have never even been to the Capitol, so we're excited to provide this experience for the community where they'll have the opportunity to meet with their legislators. We're looking forward to this event, and we're eager to see what type of engagement and education and awareness can come as a result, so legislators will know the importance firsthand of services for the community who are deafblind. On the federal level, I met with the Arizona Disability Coalition, ASDAC. We met with Congresswoman Yasamin Ansari, who is a new representative for Arizona in Washington, D.C. We had a great meeting with her, and we were able to mention some key issues that we're watching at the federal level. One issue that was brought up was potential Medicaid cuts. There is a budget plan that the legislature must pass by March 14th. And so there has been a lot of talk of what that budget potentially could look like and how that might impact us at the state level. If there are cuts, that could lead to cuts to state access, and that could have an impact on our community that receives Medicaid services through access. We are keeping an eye on the issue and advocating at the federal level. Another issue that we're keeping an eye on at the federal level, and there haven't been any significant indications that there will be a cut, but we're keeping an eye on Social Security. We're also closely watching the Department of Education to see how any changes there could impact children who are protected by IDEA or any programs with vocational rehabilitation. We want to ensure that those programs are protected by law. For example, Gallaudet University and NTID is protected by the Education of the Deaf Act and also IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Those universities are protected by those laws. And so we are feeling optimistic that because those laws are in place, things might be moved around a little bit rather than complete shutdowns. And so, again, these are issues that we're keeping an eye on a national level, and state agencies in the US are doing the same. We're ensuring that if there are any stories, if you know of anyone who is directly impacted by potential cuts, please share those stories with us so we can share those stories on our ACDHH platforms. And the last thing that I would like to mention on the federal level is we're keeping an eye on the Section 504 of the Rehab Act. Right now, there have been a lot of talks within the community about a lawsuit that started in Texas, and 17 other states have joined in on the lawsuit. A few states have expressed that they will be withdrawing from the lawsuit. And if they do, that will bring it down to 14 states who are involved with the lawsuit. The concern with this Section 504 lawsuit is the potential threat of losing disability rights and disability right protections under the Rehab Act of 1973. We are keeping a close eye on things. No definitive decisions have been made yet, but it's something that we're definitely keeping an eye on, both in state and out of state. That wraps up my executive director report and my legislative report. Any questions? You can open up for questions.
Uh, Thank you, Nikki. That was a lot of information, and we do appreciate all that you've done with ACDHH, everything that the agency is doing to ensure that our rights as people with disabilities are protected. And so please do keep us updated on all of these developments and any new information. So I see Commissioner Bomarsic with a hand raised. I will turn it over to you for questions or comments.
And thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank the interim director for her report. I do have one follow-up question that ties a little into the last things you were saying about the Rehabilitation Acts. Not Section 504, but Section 503 of the Rehabilitation Act guarantees equal employment to those with disabilities from federal contractors and subcontractors. And it hasn't made big headlines, but the office in the Department of Labor that was charged with enforcing and investigating possible violations of that law has been told neither to enforce nor to investigate cases anymore. And so I wondered if you were hearing anything about or tracking anything about equal employment for those with disabilities, including obviously the deaf and hard of hearing, within federal subcontractors or even private employers who would be covered by the EEOC more. And that's the question.
That is a great question, and I will definitely follow up with some specifics on Section 503. My only understanding at the federal level right now is the removal of DEI and DEIA programs at the executive level per the executive order. But I will definitely look into the Department of Labor and the EEOC as it pertains to Section 503. I'm going to add that to the list of things that we are keeping an eye on, and I will provide the commission and community with an update.
Great, thank you. Just to be clear, it's not the EEOC that's been told not to enforce. It's an office called OFCCP, Office of Federal Contractor Compliance Programs is what I think it stands for. Yeah. I haven't heard anything about the EEOC yet, but thank you.
Thank you for clarifying.
All right, so we're gonna wait for notes to be taken, and then we'll turn it over to Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Thompson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. My other question has to do with the Department of Education and what is going on there. It also affects the rehabilitation and special education. As I understand it, that they're looking to stop or cut any grants to continuing education to be able to pull in more professionals to serve people, the students with disabilities, and that includes deaf, blind, and the deaf and the blind are those that are going to be impacted by that. So that is something I've been keeping an eye on personally. And so I just wanted to bring that up to you, that it is not just the school system from Department of Education, but those who are being funded by Department of Education to fill the unmet needs in the schools.
Fantastic. Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. And you're right. It's not just the schools, but there's a trickle down effect that affects so many programs that are funded by the Department of Education. I know one specific organization is working on maintaining a list of all the programs and services that will be impacted. I can follow up and provide you with the list and the status of those programs on the list so we can have a better idea of what will happen. As I understand it, those programs that are protected by law will be moved to a different department, maybe the Department of Labor or to the trying to think of other departments that are that are there, but potentially the Department of Labor. But that is a great question, and we definitely need to keep an eye on those programs, especially those programs that will have an impact on our community members. So I appreciate you keeping an eye on things as well, Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. So this is still open for discussion. Does any commissioner have any additional questions or comments or things to share before we move on in the agenda? Okay. Seeing none and hearing none, I will go ahead and move on. Thank you so much, Nikki Sukup. I appreciate what you shared with us, so thank you very much.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
So the next item on our agenda that I mentioned earlier that we were going to move up on the agenda was the discussion of future meeting dates and locations. So if we review our commission materials that Kyla had posted regarding future meeting dates, let me go ahead and pull that up. So there are proposed board meeting dates for 2025. Among them are, we've got February 20, that is today. So check that off the list. What remain are May 15th, August 14th, November 6th, and finally February 19th. So as for these dates, I would like to have a consideration rather of what types of platform we want to use. What do we want to have meetings fully in person? Do we want to have them virtual? Do we want to look for a hybrid option or solution, or do we prefer to do it in person? With the understanding that in-person meetings can be done at the ACDHH offices. But if there is another location that we'd like to consider, you can feel free to share that with me. We can look at things in Tucson, Yuma, other Arizona locations as well. And another thing to consider is that meetings tend to start at 4:30 p.m. So part of the discussion can be whether that time does work for everyone. Keeping all of these factors in mind, because whatever we do for the community, what we do rather for the community is critically important. And we want to ensure that we are able to meet quorum when we arrange these meetings. So keeping that in mind in our discussion, I see that Commissioner Cohen has a hand up. So Commissioner Cohen, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello, this is Commissioner Cohen. So, regarding the type of platform for our meetings, hybrid, in person, or virtual, considering those three, I did notice that every time we do try the hybrid approach, there's always technical issues and concerns. And I did reach out to ACDHH and ask them how we can resolve that or improve that process. There was a lot of back and forth, but no actual solution. It seems to be a bit of a limitation. So therefore, I propose to the board that we remove the idea of a hybrid, either in person or virtual, to be our two options. Me personally, I would prefer virtually on Zoom. It's just more accessible for everyone residing around the state. But as far as accommodations go as well, we would have to bring those accommodations to each person's home. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cohen. I appreciate that. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you. This is Commissioner Thompson. I would prefer either hybrid or Zoom, but given what Andrew said with regard to the technical difficulty with hybrid, that we really stay with Zoom, especially since me personally, I'm going to be out of state for a couple of these times and makes it impossible to get back here for a meeting.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Does anyone else want to comment on these arrangements? Commissioner Bomarsic?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Commissioner Bomarsic. I absolutely agree that the hybrid meetings have been creating a number of technical difficulties. And I also want to stress the accessibility of Zoom. However, I also think there's an argument to be made for a commission that deals with the whole state also having at least one meeting a year elsewhere in the state, whether it's in Tucson or Flagstaff or Yuma or someplace else. Just because when we have an in-person meeting here in Phoenix, the offices are in Phoenix, we're here, then it allows for a personal connection, I guess. So I'm wondering if you could do maybe one meeting a year at another location in the state. Those who can go in person, which won't be everybody, could go. And then we'd have to risk the hybrid for that. And then everything else could be on Zoom. That's just my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kidd?
I'm new, so those complications that existed previously, I'm not aware of what happened prior to me joining the commission. However, I do agree with Commissioner Bomarsic. We do need to go to a different location at least once. I'm of the same opinion. But then we also mentioned that the ACDHH office is in Phoenix, and so regardless of it being in Phoenix, we don't have people coming to our meetings. And so that excludes Phoenix. So my suggestion is to alter it a little bit. We could have one meeting in Phoenix and one meeting in another region, and then the rest via Zoom. I think that would be a good compromise rather than having all meetings over Zoom. One of the biggest concerns some people are expressing is that there's no public participation via Zoom because it's all online and no one is presenting and commenting, and some people prefer to have that option. And so I think by adding two meetings in person and other location, um, you know, hybrid preferably, because then that's just my suggestion.
Thank you, Commissioner Kidd. Commissioner Goodson maybe? Goodstein rather, just popped up on screen. If you have something to add.
Did you call on me? Oh,
I did because I saw you turn your camera on and then it went right back off. So I wasn't sure
I'm
if you
so
had something to
sorry.
comment.
Okay. Well, as a deaf individual, I find it difficult to participate in the meetings via Zoom, but I do understand it's necessary to have that. I liked Sarah's idea of perhaps one or two meetings in person, because I think it's also important that us as commissioners have a chance to get together, maybe get together to go out and eat, chat, get to know each other a little bit better. And we'd like to see a bit more camaraderie. And at the same time, we do work hard during our meetings, obviously in person. And I'm thinking that if we have that in-person meeting, it would be a good idea to have it outside of Phoenix as well. I agree. Tucson, Yuma. I think the deaf community in those locations might appreciate our presence in their locations. And the question being whether it's going to be completely in person or hybrid, I would leave that up to you commissioners who have experience in that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodstein. And thank you, everyone. I've been thinking about your comments and been taking note of what everyone has been saying. I know that COVID completely changed how we conduct our business and how we engage with people. It's hard to believe that at this point, COVID was almost 5 years ago, been almost 5 years since it started. I love the idea of having in-person meetings, and not just in Phoenix, but in other regions, perhaps Yuma, Flagstaff, Tucson. Flagstaff's or Tucson's really nice this time of year, so come on down. I think that we will take this information into consideration, but it's important also to take the budget into consideration. I know that making arrangements for in-person meetings in different locations can be quite costly, not just the cost of interpreters, cart, and accommodation, but for having individual drive to the other location, equipment setup can be quite costly. When we've done, when we did an in-person meeting at 1900 West Camelback, which is where the Office of Professional Development for DES is located, when we were there in November for security reasons, because it was right around election time and we wanted to be away from the Capitol Mall for the safety of commissioners and staff. It was quite costly to host the meeting there. In your board materials, you should have the budget report package. I recommend you take a look at that, think things over, and also think about the financial considerations as well. But things are open for discussion. If you're interested in talking about hosting meetings offsite and the financial considerations, I'm sure Sue Kay can comment on that. I was giving the interpreter a moment there to catch up with me. In the meantime, let's hear what Commissioner O'Rourke has to say.
Yes, this is Commissioner O'Rourke, and I have a question. I don't think I understand completely when we have our Zoom meetings and the meetings also are on YouTube. Is there not any way to get a response from people in the public to be a part of these meetings? That's my question, because my concern is all of the concerns that have been brought up about meetings being off-site, and that causes a significant burden for commissioners to attend those in different parts of Arizona. But my real question is there no way for someone to participate in the meeting besides the people that are here right now on Zoom? I don't know, maybe Kyla
That
would be able to help us with that.
that is a very fair question to ask. You read my mind there, Commissioner O'Rourke. I was thinking that potentially Kyla could answer that question. Kyla, can you answer Commissioner O'Rourke's question?
Yes. So, to answer your question, Commissioner Work, this is Kyla, by the way. Members of the public are allowed to fill out the public comment card that's attached to our agenda. So there is room for public participation within our meetings, much like there would be in person. So there's a virtual comment card that members of the public are encouraged to fill out. That way, if they wanted to provide any public comments, much in the same way that they would if they were to be in a meeting in person. And we've had that before in the past for other meetings. We just haven't had it in a while, and it's probably why it feels a little foreign because it's been quite a while since we've had any public participation in our meetings. But that is a possibility and something that's built into our meetings. So yes, we do have the capability of having the public participate in our board meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kyla. Commissioner Herron, I'm gonna give Suke the opportunity to make a comment about the financial aspects of hosting our meetings in person. Su Suke?
This is UK. So I want to piggyback on what Kyla said first and foremost. Part of the problem is our AV equipment that we have in-house is on a different platform than what we do the live stream on YouTube. So while they can technically submit a public comment card and have comment, what we have found is the delay is so significant because they're not on the same platform and don't stream at the same rate that it became quite frustrating for the people who were watching via YouTube. So there is technical problems because that system doesn't play well with the AV system that we have. Secondly, in regards to offsite meetings, previously we had our own portable equipment for AV, similar to the setup that we currently have in the office. We no longer have that equipment, so we had to hire an outside AV contractor. The meeting on November 11th, just for the AV alone, was about $10,000. So that does not include staff having to get a hotel room or commissioners getting a hotel room. And we can't do, we can do the live stream, but we can't do Zoom and an in-person at the same time. That type of hybrid. Excuse me.
Thank you, Sue K. That information is really helpful for us. Commissioner Herron. Commissioner Herron, and then we'll go to Commissioner Cohen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay. In seeing all of these comments, I think that it really requires a bit more of a discussion to organize all of this. I would like to move that we accept the meeting dates all via Zoom, while at the same time we have someone figure out the varying costs and then also figure out the logistics of on-site. And then if we still would like to have one off-site later, we would decide and change one of those dates to do so. Um, I think to just make the discussion a bit shorter tonight, we could go ahead and do that. And we just go ahead and label all of those meeting dates as Zoom meetings. And this is Commissioner Cohen. I second that.
This is Commissioner Cienko. We have a motion on the floor to have all of those proposed meeting dates via Zoom, while ACDHH staff looks into the possibility of hosting a meeting offsite and then report back to us. Commissioner Cohen has seconded the motion. Kyla, do we need to do a roll call for this? Yeah?
We can if you like.
Okay. Let's go ahead with the roll call.
Sure. Commissioner O'Rourke?
Yes, I.
Question for you guys. Can you guys call the roll call? And in order to save time, anybody that disagrees, if there are no disagreements, we just move forward?
I agree with that. Just saying it, does anyone oppose? And then we can move forward with the approval.
This is Board Chair Cienko. I'm okay with that. Let's nix the roll call. And I will rephrase what I said earlier. We have a motion on the floor and a second. And now we're looking for any opposition to the motion on the floor. Seeing none and hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Goodstein, for your assistance there. I appreciate that. Now, with that taken care of, we can move on to the deaf-blind interpreting request ad hoc committee update. If I recall, one of the commissioners at one of our many, many, many meetings that we've had quite recently, I don't recall which meeting, but someone made a motion to have an update and a discussion about this. Our AAG is here if we're seeking legal advice. Elise, is there anything that you would like to say? Is there a summary that you can provide to us about this?
Yes. So I don't have the date that it happened written in front of me. It was sometime last year. Somebody made a motion, the motion was seconded and carried to have the commission create an ad hoc committee to review the current status of the staff um, assisting with deaf-blind interpreter requests. It was obviously put on hold a little bit because of everything that has been going on, but now that we're back, that's something that needs to obviously happen. And I've been considering and in discussions and want to help put that together. But in order to make sure that we operate under open meeting laws, I don't know if anybody, if the person who made their motion remembers, I don't have those minutes up in front of me. I would like the board to clarify the goal if possible. If the goal, just because either if this is an ad hoc committee to just do research and present to the board what's going on, that's one thing. If this committee plans to potentially make any sort of recommendation for action to the board, it would operate as a different kind of meeting. And I would need to assist in the creation and operation of either of those meetings. But we need to determine what that goal is. It's about as much as I think I can start with, since the rest is up to you, to just clarify that with me. And then I can work with the committee members as well as the staff to put that together. If you have any legal questions while you're discussing those kind of logistics, let me know, and I might jump in to explain what will need to happen next. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much, Elise. Um, Now I'm thinking, if I recall, I believe it was Commissioner Cohen who made this motion, and I see now Commissioner Cohen has his hand raised. Do you mind rephrasing your motion or clarifying? It was quite some time ago, so please let us know what that was. Then there was light.
Yeah, the eyes are tired. Okay, this is Commissioner Cohen. So you are right. That was a bit ago. I do remember that. And I did send an email to ACDHH a few times regarding that motion to check in to see if the ad hoc group had been established, and it was continually put on hold. So now we do need more clarifying information. I do wish that that was in an email in the past, even before this meeting. But that said, the purpose of the ad hoc committee was to review the process of how deafblind requests interpreters. And it was to identify the gaps in the process itself. The intention was to partner with ACDHH, review that process. There was nothing that needed to be brought to the commission for any type of action. It was more of a review of that process, just to make sure that we didn't have any repeat issues or concerns in the future. So honestly, it was just basically open feedback of how to improve a process. I wasn't thinking about open meeting law regarding it, but thank you for your comment and just let me know.
Thank you. Yeah, so I appreciate your patience. Some of the reason it was put a little bit on hold from myself and the staff is that there have been in the past some open meeting law questions across all boards when it comes to committees. And so thank you for your patience. So if it is a board that wishes to just do some research, review, and potentially present those findings back to the board, then that committee, could be created, and you can work with me if there will be any sort of advice, or if, as you were saying, if gaps are identified and you want to bring it back to the board and tell them about it, then that would be something we would have to do open meeting law. I might be going a little bit into legal advice here. So, basically, if you're not planning on doing any recommendations for action to the board, then you can create that ad hoc committee, and I think we can just go forward with it.
Okay, we are now open for discussion. Commissioner Herron?
Thank you, Commissioner, Madam Chair. So, as I was reviewing, to me, the way Commissioner Cohen had phrased it, it seemed like it was like regarding feedback to staff. And I think that we're talking about the consumer versus the commissioners. So I'm wondering, I just want to clarify the role that's played as far as the discussion. Is it consumers and providing that feedback? I don't think that a commissioner needs to be involved unless something needs to be changed if it's related to some type of legal action. So I think from what I do see Commissioner Cohen now, and he might be here to explain.
Yeah, Commissioner Cohen? Commissioner Cohen?
Sorry, totally overlooked that. Okay, so this is Commissioner Cohen here. So, yeah, that's a great question, Commissioner Herron. I forgot that you just recently joined us and you weren't here prior. So, um, not as a consumer, I am speaking as a commissioner. And to share the story, what had occurred in the past, I think it was a few years ago, honestly. There was a deafblind person who did file an interpreter complaint. Now, our job, of course, was to look into that complaint and find details. And in doing so, we found that there were many errors on all parties involved, even ACDHH, the interpreter, the agency, the deafblind person. There were a lot of discrepancies there. We had a lot of discussions throughout about 3 different meetings regarding this.
It's complex.
So, yes, it was quite overwhelming. And so that at that time, that's where we decided that we would like an ad hoc committee to look into it to make sure that that instance didn't occur again. So that's basically the reason. Because as far as, our deafblind community, we want to make sure we support them. And then for clarification, this is Commissioner Herron again. As far as the ad hoc committee goes, would that be a part of commissioners being involved and working on that project? And this is Commissioner Cohen again. So I do admit that I would like to lead that ad hoc community and that ad hoc commission so that we can gather that information and review what is happening with ACDHH. If there's any serious action, of course, I would bring that to the board through open meeting law and the like. And this is Commissioner Herron. It seems that we don't have a clear understanding. I think we need some catch up here for some of us, but I don't want to delay our time as well, and that's not fair to the deafblind community. I don't want to delay their services either. So, is there any way to possibly have, well, maybe my question is, what are we expecting from that committee? Are we expecting an approval of a new process or a way of interpreting for the deafblind? What are your expectations that might come out of that committee? And this is Commissioner Cohen. So, my vision was to meet with ACDHH and analyze the process. And in doing that, hope to find no gaps. But if we do need to make some changes in the process, then I would bring that back to the board for any type of action. But right now, it would just be analyzing the process, making sure that everything was appropriately in place. Of
And
course, if more details or were needed, we could definitely go back and review some of the old meetings because we do have those recorded.
okay, and
And this Commissioner, oh,
This is Board Chair Cienko. I do have a question for you, Commissioner Herron. And for those newer commissioners, I'm wondering if it would be helpful to have Kyla find the link from that meeting and
yes,
share that
please.
information with newer commissioners for context. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of agreement from commissioners stating that that would be helpful. Now, thinking about the way that we could do this, as Commissioner Herron was saying, it's important that we don't delay this any longer for the deafblind community, a community that's already an underserved population. I think for those newer commissioners, it would be important for you to get more background. If someone would like to make a motion to table this agenda item, we can do that. We can also have further discussion. I'll leave that to the board.
Commissioner Kidd has.
Commissioner Kidd, Commissioner Kidd, I apologize.
This is Commissioner Kidd. I didn't want to delay the point. I know we're having a discussion now, but I had a couple questions I wanted to ask Elise. First of all, what do we call this? Would this still technically be an ad hoc committee, or would we have a different label for this so that way it could make the motion that we're discussing? Because it seems that there's a different route. One way is, in regards to open meeting laws, and then not really quite sure how to label this request now.
Well, ad hoc committee is just a
Elise?
term that, oh, this is Elise, sorry. Ad hoc committee was just a term that was used in these meetings. It's not an official like term of art. So I think that the commission, then the committee can probably be called whatever it wants. It just basically it's just about, and if we want to get really into the different open meeting laws and what each kind is, we can go into executive session. But I know those can be kind of complicated and long. So I'll just say the open meeting would just depend on if there is potentially going to be action taken or recommended, it would have to operate like some of the pre-existing like licensing committee meetings do, which they would be open meetings. If it's just for research, we could just do a presentation. So that would sort of be the difference, just in a broad sense, without getting into the strict legalities of it. Ad hoc is just a word that we've been using. It's not an official term.
This is Commissioner Kidd. Thank you. A second question for you. If I apologize. If I make a motion to establish an ad hoc committee, are we required to assign a chairperson to that committee at this moment, or could that be left open?
I don't. That's sort of beyond the scope of my logistical part. As far as open meeting stuff goes, I would defer to the commission chair, Cienko, to answer a question like that. I don't think that's in my purview, but thanks for bringing it up, because I think that's probably a good call.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. I see Commissioner Cohen has his hand up. Commissioner Cohen?
Yes, this is Commissioner Cohen. That's a great question, Commissioner Kidd, honestly. My plan was to get the go-ahead and then move forward and invite others to join in. And then go ahead and meet with ACDHH and learn about their process regarding this. So that was my plan, and bringing it back, seeing if we needed to make any changes. And then it was very informal. The original idea was informal.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Kidd. Okay, well, now I move that we establish an informal committee or a group to investigate these issues with the deafblind community. And to go ahead, Commissioner Cohen.
So we already did pass a motion. I believe it was already passed. It was just tabled for further investigation. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if we need a second motion regarding that.
Okay, this is Commissioner Kidd. I thought the agenda said action. I wasn't sure if there was clarification needed.
This is Commission Chair Cienko. Thank you so much. Like Commissioner Cohen said, I was going to say that the motion was made, that we look into things, and then that was just held in perpetuity. Um, I see ACDHH staff Victoria Vaughn with her hand raised. Go ahead, Victoria.
Hello. So I wanted to kind of help out if I could. Based on the concerns and the discussion of setting up an ad hoc committee, we did set up an SOP to outline our current procedures for procuring interpreters for our deafblind consumers in the community. So we have that ready to go if anyone wants to view it. I know it's been a long time, but I just wanted to throw that out there that we have that ready. And if we want to start there, we can send that out ASAP. It's ready to rock and roll. So just that bit of information.
Thank you, Victoria. Commissioner Cohen, and then Commissioner Kidd.
Commissioner Cohen here. So let's see. I'd like to ask Kyla. I don't know if we can go back and look at the old minutes. We can double check to remind ourselves if that was passed, if that motion was passed for that ad hoc group, or if it was just an unofficial discussion.
Go ahead, Kyla.
So as you guys are discussing, I just went back and found that. I'm so sorry. I have 85 things open right now on my desktop. Yes, that motion carried.
Okay.
What?
So no action is needed.
So no action needed. And I will be just so you guys all know, I was able to locate the YouTube video. So I will be sending out the YouTube link so that you guys can all view that video along with these previous minutes from August 15th for anybody that didn't get a chance to view that, so that you guys can all just take a look at that as well.
This is Commission Chair Cienko. Thank you so much, Kyla. You are a rock star for finding that YouTube link and for finding the meeting minutes. That was in August? My goodness. Wow. I'm just in complete shock that that has been on the back burner for so long. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. Commissioner Herron?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So I am trying to understand. We did have that as a motion, but what do you need from us? We were talking about a discussion, we were talking about an ad hoc group, but I still fail to understand what you need from the commissioners.
This is Commission Chair Cienko. I completely agree. Commissioner Cohen, would you like to respond?
Commissioner Cohen. This is Commissioner Cohen. Really nothing for now from the commissioners. I will go ahead and meet with ACDHH. I will engage. I invite anyone to join me in that review of their SOP or whatever information they have, but no action is needed from any commissioners at this point. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Cohen. I believe that may conclude our discussion on that agenda item. Seeing that no one else has any comments on that agenda item. Awesome. All right, let me see what's next on our agenda. Next, we have the interpreter complaint update. So, this is basically about the commission's ability to expand the scope of the current interpreter licensure committee to include the review of interpreter complaints. There was discussion about the potential of the interpreter licensure committee expanding their scope and adding additional responsibilities to that subcommittee. Commissioner Cohen, I see that you have your hand raised.
Commissioner Cohen here. So yes, I am the one that proposed that, and to add that to the agenda, I want to explain the history regarding that for those that are new here. So from my understanding, even before my time, was that ACDHH as a commission would come together, and on the agenda, they would always review interpreter licensures. So with that, that was always on the agenda, and it would take a long period of time. It was quite time consuming. So ACDHH commissioners decided to vote and did pass that motion to create a licensure commission. So we moved those duties over to that licensure review board, and they review those licenses on a bi-monthly basis. And that was wonderful because the board could move forward with other agenda items. Now, once I joined, I did notice that during those regular meetings, we had a lot of interpreter complaints that did take a lot of time. If that was in the agenda, it would last quite long and we would take a lot of time. I was wondering about the ILC and if they could take over that focus and it could be put on their plate as far as interpreter complaints. Maybe we could change it to the ICC or something of the like so that they would handle that role. Now, I am not sure if that's something that the ILC could handle, but at this point, it was just something that I wanted to mention to help us be more time sensitive with our meetings.
Thank you so much for the backstory, Commissioner Cohen. Before I move to Commissioner Swenson, I want to recognize our AAG, Elise Phelan. Elise, why don't you go and then we'll move on to Commissioner Swenson.
Sure. So I just wanted to talk in case this might either A, answer another question, or B, we might need to go into executive session because there's just a little bit that would lead into some legal advice based on some of the history. Yes, this was also brought to my attention, and I also noticed how it was making meetings pretty long, and there's a pre-existing committee that could be expanded. Hypothetically, some of the ways it could be expanded and some of that authority is something that I can explain to the commissioners in executive session. I don't think it would need to be a long one. It's just sort of on the edge of legal advice before you guys make any decisions on expanding that scope. So I just wanted to put that on offer if the commissioners want to speak first, but I can answer. I have a feeling some of these questions in a legal advice executive session.
Thank you, Elise. Commissioner Swenson, would you still like to comment?
Hi, yes, thank you, Chair. I appreciate Commissioner Cohen for bringing that up. That's something that I've been thinking about a lot. It does extend our quarterly meetings by quite a long time. And the other concern that I had is that it leaves both the interpreter with a complaint against them in limbo without resolution and the consumer who has made the complaint without resolution for a very long time. And I feel like we need to examine that process of determining what the action will be and how long it takes so that we can be fair to both the consumer and the interpreters that are waiting to hear.
Thank you, Commissioner Swenson. Commissioner Madsen.
Yes. So I wanted to recommend that we move to closed session rather, so that we can talk about this further.
Okay, we have a motion to go into executive session. Do we have a second? We have a second
Second.
from Commissioner Herron. Any opposed? If not, we will move into executive session. This is Commission Chair Cienko. Thank you, everyone. The commissioners had the opportunity and took that opportunity to ask some fantastic questions. I just want to double check before we get started again that we have everyone here. Kyla, can you start us off with a roll call just to ensure that all commissioners are present?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner O'Rourke,
Here.
Commissioner Madsen. We'll come back to him. Commissioner Heron. Oh, perfect. Okay, Commissioner Heron. Commissioner Kidd. Commissioner Thompson.
Yeah.
Commissioner Williams.
Here.
Commissioner Swenson.
Here.
Commissioner Venkatesh. Commissioner Cohen.
Here.
Commissioner Bolmarsich. And Commissioner Goodstein.
Present.
And last but not least, Commissioner Cinco.
Here. Thank you, Kyla, for ensuring that we are all back in the main session. I see Commissioner Cohen has his hand raised. Commissioner Cohen.
Yes, this is Commissioner Cohen. You are correct. That was an amazing discussion and a lot of information learned. So going back to the interpreter complaints, once those are received, they do then arrive to the commission for a final decision. So the board does make that final decision. That is a legal decision that needs to be made via the board. But as far as how the interpreter complaint arrives and gets to the commission, that is the process we're looking into. And that is where we might intervene and make some adjustments. So I would like to make a motion. Let's see, I move that all interpreter complaints first go through the Interpreter Licensing Committee for their review and recommendations. And then those recommendations do come to the full board for a decision. Period.
Commissioner Cohen has made a motion that all interpreter complaints first go to the Interpreter Licensing Committee for review and recommendations before that review and recommendations are brought to the full board. Do I have a second on the motion? Commissioner Thompson, I second that. We have a second from Commissioner Thompson.
Any discussion?
We can now open the floor for discussion. I see Commissioner Kidd.
This is Commissioner Kidd. I do have some, I guess, legal concerns that were brought up during the meeting. I think instead of the motion and Harry, I think we should table this action item to give at least the time to address those concerns that we had before we make the final decision.
Commissioner Cohen.
This is Commissioner Cohen. I'm not sure about Robert's rules of order here. We did have a second, and now we have a question to table it. So what might we do?
I think you can withdraw the motion.
This is Commissioner Heron. Yeah, I think we should.
I'm
I
sorry,
missed
Commissioner,
that.
Commissioner Herron, can you repeat that? I missed what you said.
Yes, we can table it, and then we can anyone opposed to tabling it. If not, then we can go ahead and table it indefinitely.
So what do you mean by this?
Table.
Table.
Oh, okay, to
Table.
table it.
The correct sign is the one that I use, but table, sure. The other sign will work as well.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I see that Commissioner O'Rourke has her hand up, but I do want to mention that there are some commissioners who are newer to their service on the board and newer to Robert's Rules of Order, and that's where our commission expert, Commissioner Herron, comes in to play. I have not learned or reviewed my Robert's Rules of Order since my Gallaudet time. My God, I don't want to say how many years ago that was. You can see the grays that I have now. That tells you enough. Commissioner O'Rourke.
Yes, I have a question about the committee. These are going to be members who are commissioners who are on the ILC committee, correct? So they should have the ability to make the decision on the interpreter's issues. And I feel that giving them that position, when they bring the information to the full board, in light of it being not expedited for expedition's sake, but being done because it's been reviewed by commissioners, that the discussion would be short and quick and approved because commissioners have already reviewed this. I also wonder, to the point that was brought up about Elise having more time to review this, I believe she said that she would be able to review this information, whether we agreed to having the interpreter complaints go through the licensing committee or whether we kept it the same way. I think in view of the fact that we are bringing up a different way, I see no reason to table this information that we discussed in executive session and should be able to have a motion on the floor to pass.
This is Commissioner Heron. If we can ask Kid if he would like to withdraw the tabled motion.
And this is Commission Chair Cienko. If I could just have everyone hold for one moment. Thank you, Commissioner O'Rourke. I noticed that Commissioner Cohen wanted to respond to what Commissioner O'Rourke was asking or what she was saying. So we're going to let Commissioner Cohen respond to Commissioner O'Rourke, if that's okay with the board.
So this is Commissioner Heron. Once something is tabled, it should be the end of discussion, but for friendly discussion purposes, certainly we can allow Commissioner Cohen to make his comments, but if we have something tabled indefinitely, then we do.
Thank you. Commissioner Cohen?
Commissioner Herron, if you could
Yeah.
stay on screen with me, please.
Yeah, we need your help.
Okay. So I want to make sure that I'm clear on tabling and how that works. So once a person says they would like to table a motion, is that an automatic moving to the next meeting and no
No, it
more
is not.
discussion, or how does that work?
How it works is If we still want to bring it to the next meeting, we have to untable it. And then the tabled motion becomes old business. So that would mean that the agenda would have to have a discussion of that old business to untable the item. If people do not vote to support that, then it would remain tabled and as if it were dead, unless someone brings it back to the table again, brings it back up again as a motion.
Okay, this is Commissioner Cohen. I believe I understand tabling it, but I didn't see Commissioner Kidd um, discuss it with the AG, and I don't believe there was any
There was not.
action for the AG. So I'm not sure. I mean, to me, that means that's just tabled and put aside. So I'm not, I
It
guess,
could be.
how do we create the action for the AG and put it on the agenda for the next meeting?
So we would need to ask Commissioner Kidd if he would be willing to withdraw his tabled motion. And I'm sorry, I'm losing people as cameras open. If Commissioner Kidd is present.
And I see Commissioner Kidd.
This is Commissioner Kidd. It was not my intent to table this discussion indefinitely. I was hoping to just table it, thinking that allowed the AG to investigate. If that's the incorrect action, then I am happy to withdraw my table.
So this
I
is
just wanted
Commissioner
to,
Heron.
yeah. The whole point for the tabling was just because I wasn't quite sure if we wanted to decide on the ILC, because we had mentioned the ICC as an option, right? And so that's the whole reason I tabled it. Go ahead.
So there are two issues going on. This is Commissioner Heron. You said table, but there wasn't really time. You could have said table to the next meeting to discuss it, but no time was assigned to that. So that's one issue.
Got it.
Or also we could make a different amendment to that to Commissioner Cohen's motion. Who was the main? Whose motion was that? Commissioner Cohen. Okay, so we could amend
Mhm.
that motion, which is another way to resolve it. It would be easier to withdraw it. And then the second issue, I believe, is that Madam Chair, you did recognize the AAG's had already said that she was directed to proceed. So the
Right.
table doesn't help anything because that direction was given.
Thank you for
Right.
clarifying. And this is Commissioner Kidd. For the official record, I do withdraw my motion for tabling the agenda item.
Let it be noted that Commissioner Kidd has rescinded his tabling of this agenda item. Commissioner Cohen, would you like to keep your motion on the table or withdraw your motion?
Commissioner Cohen here, for the sake of progress, I would not mind.
Wouldn't mind what?
So let's move to after Aurora's comment. Let's see, there was two things after that. There was an instance with a deaf blind consumer and a complaint regarding that. And that definitely was very detailed and took a lot of time and a lot of research regarding that complaint. If we were to take that complaint and give it to the ILC and give them the responsibility to do the research and find all the information needed, that would save time for the full board if we gave them that responsibility. Now, secondly, as far as the ILC goes, they are not able to make any decisions related to disciplinary action. They can only review, find information, compile that, and then make recommendations to the full board. Just like Victoria had done in the past, that would be something they would bring to the full board for that final disciplinary action. And we would utilize them to save that time. During these board meetings, it usually tends to take a very long time related to interpreter complaints. So I just wanted to answer those comments from Commissioner O'Rourke.
Okay. Remember, we have a motion on the floor and a second. I feel like we may be going a bit off track here. Commissioner
So
Herron?
this is Commissioner Herron. What what was the motion?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Herron, when you started signing, your video got a little bit choppy. Can you please repeat?
So what I'm asking is, what was the motion that I kind of got lost of what path we were on? Could you rephrase it? That would be helpful.
Okay, if I recall, Commissioner Cohen moved that any interpreter complaint first go to the ILC for their review. They would then make recommendations to the full board for the full board's review. Commissioner Thompson seconded the motion. We opened things up for discussion and then we got off track. So I'm
All
trying to
right,
bring us back on track here.
back to that main motion. Okay.
Yes, please. Okay, I see several hands. We're going to start with Commissioner Goodstein. Then we'll move to Commissioner Bolmarsich, then Commissioner Kidd, then Commissioner Madsen. Commissioner Goodstein?
This is Commissioner Goodstein. I do agree with Commissioner O'Rourke in the fact that the ILC is composed of commissioners and as a subcommittee of the whole commission. And in order to streamline the process, I agree. I feel that it's a little unwieldy to have the entire group take action. So I agree. I think it's a good idea to have the ILC make that recommendation to the board. And then we could just accept those in good faith that our commissioners, our fellow commissioners on that committee did their due diligence. Now, as for the complaints in and of themselves, that would be another matter. If it's possible that that could be resolved within the ILC itself or that expanded subcommittee, if that could be done and then recommended, that'd be great. If that's not allowed or not possible, then perhaps all of us commissioners ultimately would have to address the complaint. And so I think we should have faith in that committee that's working on behalf of the commission. Just my opinion.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodstein. Commissioner Bolmarsich, and then Commissioner Madsen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Commissioner Bomarsich. I think we need a start date on that motion of Commissioner Cohen's. So I move, because there are presumably complaints going through the system right now, as well as open complaints. So I would move to amend his motion to say that as of any complaints received after February 21st, 2025, will follow this system. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And before I recognize ACDHH staff Victoria Vaughn, I would like to jump in here and make a comment. Before we make, I would like her to make her comment before we make our final decision.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's a couple things. I know some concerns were mentioned about the timeliness of complaints and having a resolution for both the interpreter that the complaint is against as well as the person making the complaint. So to take into consideration, we are severely backlogged. We have not had a complaint on the agenda for quite some time, and we had an unprecedented amount before that. We are looking at around 25 complaints currently pending, waiting for review. So I want the board to know that information. This is unprecedented times. We've never had this many before. That is how many we have currently waiting for it to be brought to the board for a decision.
This is Commissioner Herron. So this is important, but it is a separate question. It's slightly off track to what we're talking about for the motion on the table right now. So if we could hear from Commissioner Madsen, and then we could get back to that issue brought up by Victoria after that, that would be great.
Agreed. Commissioner Madsen?
And this is Commissioner Herron. We also need a second for what Commissioner Bolmarczyk
Thank you. Do we have a
brought.
second?
A second also.
Oh, you second it. You second Commissioner Bolmarczyk
The discussion of
amendment.
the amendment. For the amendment only, agreeing to amending the past motion. But as also Commissioner Madsen wants to make a comment, he would have to wait until we finish that amendment piece first.
Okay, so we have a second.
Commissioner Madsen, I'll wait.
Thank you, Commissioner Madsen. So we have a second to Commissioner Bolmarczyk's amendment that the ILC will review any complaints received after February 21st, 2025.
According to the new procedure.
Thank you. Yes, according to the new procedure. We have a second. Now we're going to open it for discussion on that.
So if there are any concerns or discussions, that's what we open now. This is
Commissioner
Commissioner
Madsen.
Madsen. Sorry, I would like to add, so it was mentioned previously about the backlog of complaints. My current thought is that those complaints are going to be reviewed under the old procedure as of today, the procedure that has been in place. But any new complaint that comes up tomorrow would be the new process. That was my thinking, that whatever happens, as recent as yesterday would follow the old process.
Yeah, I think that was clear. I do believe that's what Commissioner Bolmarczyk did clearly state.
Okay, just making sure. And then, so everything up to yesterday and today would be the old process, and then starting tomorrow will be the new process. Okay.
Correct. So discussion is closed.
All right.
We
Discussion.
need to go to a vote.
Discussion is closed.
For the amendment of the 21st, yes.
Now we can go into a vote for the amendment that would start February 21st.
So any agree or disagree, and then we would go back to the main motion after we resolve this one.
What she said. All right, so let's go ahead and vote. Let's just see any opposition. All right, motion carries.
And then, so with no opposition, back to the main motion with the phrasing, the new phrasing.
Okay, back to the original motion. Commissioner Madsen. I know.
So I'm just processing. Okay, so we have that amendment that's closed path. Now I want to see about adding an amendment, because I do feel that the committee, so
Commissioner
the motion that we have
Bolmarczyk.
is the recommendation of Commissioner Bolmarczyk was great, but there's going to be some investigation, some research rather involved in this process, and in terms of the ILC being able to do it. So how do we fit the research that needs to be done into this process? And this is Commissioner Herron. I think it's automatic. The AAG actually probably needs to help with this, but I believe that when you pass that motion, when you pass it, then you pass that on, and that will be followed through, and then she will either tell us that it will work, no problem, or there will be a pushback that says that will not work. And once we get that pushback, then we would have to amend the language at that point. So this is Commissioner Madsen. So my understanding is that we would have to ask the AAG then what to do.
She would have to do that anyway. Yeah, that's what she was trying to explain before.
All right, I withdraw that.
Okay, you withdraw that, Commissioner Madsen. Commissioner Goodstein.
Commissioner Goodstein. Um, I understand Scott's position. There might be some concern whether we are doing things legally, and that's all well and good. But the bottom line is that ultimately the entire commission must approve these recommendations, regardless of whether it's a recommendation or if we need to be involved in the complaints if necessary. So what happens in between on that timeline where the commission grants the authority to the committee and they pass a recommendation towards us? There could be different events that happen in there, like Andrew or Commissioner Cohen mentioned. There's multiple different avenues we could go on, but when the final end of the day, the commission has the authority to make these decisions, and so I think that it might not really be necessary if I mean, Commissioner Madsen could go ahead and amend and that additional phrasing. It'd be okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodstein. That amendment has passed. Now, Commissioner Herron, help me out here. Where do we go from here?
So there was no discussion, and then we would vote on the. There was no discussion. We would vote on the motion.
Thank you. We will close discussion and move to vote
Roll call.
on the motion. Let's do a roll call vote. I want to make sure that everyone has an understanding of the motion on the floor. Commissioner Herron, help me out here. It's that the interpreter complaints will first go to the ILC. Any complaints we receive after February 21st, 2025 will go to the ILC before coming to the full board. Kyla, can you give us a roll call, please?
Sure. Commissioner O'Rourke,
Yes.
Commissioner Madsen,
Yes.
Commissioner
Aye.
Herron,
Aye.
Commissioner Kidd,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yeah.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Swenson, Commissioner Venkatesh, Commissioner Cohen,
Aye.
Commissioner Bolmarsich,
Aye.
Commissioner Goodstein,
Aye.
and then Commissioner Cinco.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. I am looking at the time and we are nearing
And I
7
do need to
p.m.
go.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Cohen had to leave us. Thank you so much for all
Thank
that
you.
you do. As I said, we're getting close to 7 p.m. What time do we have our interpreters and our cart providers scheduled till?
8 o'clock.
Ooh, 8 o'clock. Oh boy. Commissioner Bomarsich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Commissioner Romersich. This is just a point of order. Um, could we call commissioners' names in alphabetical order? Because it would make things easier for us, for those of us who are relying on the captions. Because we know when to expect our name. And right now, we don't seem to be going in any kind of order. Does that make sense? I don't know
That
if
abs
that's not possible or what.
that
No, that's
absolutely makes
possible.
sense. If it makes sense for Kyla.
The order I'm going in is just the order that you guys arrived in the room, but I'll modify that to be in alphabetical order.
Okay, that would actually be very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So that motion carried, and we have a few agenda items remaining. We have the ADA training for the Arizona State Legislature, the ACDHH and DCS partnership, part provider shortage, and future agenda items. I would like to remind everyone that we have our interpreters and cart provider until 8 p.m. They've been working so hard. I think it would be wise to give them a 10-minute break if that's okay with everyone. It is 7:01. Please return at 7:11. Grab a snack, grab some water. See you in 10 minutes. Okay. It is now 7:11. Want to just ensure that we have all commissioners back. Kyla, can you provide us with a quick roll call to ensure that everyone's here? Thank you.
Sure. Commissioner Bolmarsich,
Oh,
Commissioner Goodstein, I'll come back for him. Commissioner Heron. Oh, here he is. Perfect. Okay.
Here.
Commissioner Kidd,
Here.
Commissioner Madsen,
Here.
and then Commissioner O'Rourke, we see that. I think we saw, yeah, she's here.
here.
Commissioner Cinco is here. Commissioner Swenson,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson,
Here.
Yeah.
Commissioner Venkatesh, and then Commissioner Williams.
I think we may have lost Fred. Oh,
Oh, sorry, I had a problem with my computer.
that is no problem at all. We're happy you're here. Thank you, Kyla, for that quick roll call. Now we'll move on to agenda item number 9, ADA training for the Arizona State Legislature. Who's going to take the lead on this agenda item? Nikki, do you know about this? I believe it was Commissioner Scarborough who had requested this. And I was about to tell Wendy that her camera wasn't on. Your screen was black for some reason, but it looks like she's turned her camera off to fix that. I'm sorry, Nikki, go ahead. You're muted, Wendy.
If you remember, um, I believe what happened was Superintendent Annette Reichman was at the was
Swearing
Was
in.
that the swearing in?
swearing in related to there were issues related to the interpreter time, and they had to leave, and then the legislators continued to have the discussion pertaining to the schools for the deaf, even though there were no interpreters present. And I think there was a motion made. I think there was something to do with it. There was a vote taken. There were around, that was the issues. One of the legislators, that was the issue where one of the legislators was proposing something, not, and then there was not complying with the ADA and all that. So there were other considerations as well. For example, maybe we want to consider assigning ACDHH to provide training for the legislature with regards to the ADA. That's my recollection of what was going on.
Thank you, Nikki. And I do recall hearing about Annette Reichman's experience at the Capitol. And if I recall, she was asked to be there at the last minute, so there may have been some issues in coordinating interpreters. Accessibility is critical to our communities, and Superintendent Reichman is one of the pivotal members of our community. She represents our community, and it's devastating to hear that she experienced that. And I know that Our interim director, Nikki Sukup, has also experienced issues as director of public policy. I would like to discuss potential trainings with the legislature when it comes to accommodations and interpreters, and I'm going to open up the discussion to commissioners. I see Commissioner Kidd and then Commissioner Goodstein. Commissioner Kidd.
This is Commissioner Kidd. This is a no-brainer. Yes, we do need to provide training, but how and what type of training we're going to provide, I would like Nikki to give some feedback as to how we could pursue that.
Nikki, would you like to provide us with an answer to Commissioner Kidd's question?
There are various ways that our team at ACDHH, we have a great team of trainers, and the outreach group can do a lot. They can reach out to, they have reached out rather to, we have to get permission first from the House Speaker, and then the Speaker of the House, and then the Senate President. We have to reach out to them, and we are able to provide training. We were able to offer that on Zoom. And also volunteers for the training. We emailed rather all of the senators, all of the, to invite everyone. So there are various approaches, pardon the interpreter, there are various approaches that can be taken these are the steps that we can take. So who would be responsible for the ADA person, the ADA chairperson rather? Dustin, can you please?
It would be the Sergeant of Arms. They tend to coordinate the trainings there and work with us for ADA accessibility. Thank you, Nikki. Commissioner Kidd.
This is Commissioner Kidd. My second question, sorry. If it's required, you know what? I dropped the question. It was related to something else. Never mind.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Kidd. We'll go to Commissioner Goodstein.
This is Commissioner Goodstein. I think it's important to give some type of ADA training to the legislators. Absolutely. Maybe explaining it to the key committee members, perhaps the chair of each committee, as well as the head of each house, the House and the House of Representatives and the Senate, whether that be through a memo potentially. If I remember correctly, what happened in the state of Maryland with the legislation, there was some type of arrangement where if there was an agenda item in a committee meeting that had something to do with the deaf population, it wasn't always successful, but they would typically move it to the top of the agenda, maybe the first couple of items, so that way the interpreters did not have to stay the entire day and wait and potentially time out. These are things that potentially could impact the situation. Things to think about.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodstein. I see Commissioner Kidd and then Commissioner Herron. Commissioner Kidd?
Yeah, Commissioner Kidd, I lost it and it came back. Okay, so my next question was, how can we get the legislators involved? Because in today's political arena, everybody is avoiding the appearance of providing any sort of DEI. And so I think that they would avoid attending such meeting because it would then label them as a supporter of DEI. So how do we approach that? What's your opinion, Nikki?
That's a really good question. Nikki? Nikki, are you able to provide us with some type of response to that? The
Yeah,
concerns about DEI?
that's a great question. So there are two things. First, the ADA is still current law. We are still required to comply with the laws as they currently exist. We also do have the Arizona Center for Disability Law, or the Arizona Disability Law group, that they can help us with that as well. So we have our Arizona laws and we have federal laws that pertain to this. So it is going to be critical for the legislature to be aware of those laws that exist in the first place. And secondly, we can frame it in a manner of that these are their constituents who are seeking to engage with them, with the government. If they're unable to communicate with their constituents, then they would not be able to meaningfully engage in communication with those constituents. So the framing would be important. It would be about political participation and the civic process. So taking that frame is how we would want to proceed in terms of how they can engage with their voters, and making sure that they're meeting the needs of the community, a diverse community, or the community that they represent. So the political climate currently, yes, it is important to consider framing in terms of sensitive topics. So we might be able to draw more interest and reduce resistance with how we frame the discussion.
Commissioner, good approach. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Commissioner Herron, then Commissioner Bolmarsich, and then Commissioner Thompson.
So this is Commissioner Herron. So having the interim director of ACDHH rather also follow through with the ADA training as well for the Arizona State Legislature, and how what we would like to include that rather in the next report.
That's a motion.
Oh, pardon me, it's a motion. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Herron to task our interim executive director in following up with the state legislature and reporting back to us at the next board meeting about providing a training.
Provide training to work with the state legislature to provide ADA training.
Commissioner
Thank
Kidd, I
you.
second.
Commissioner Kidd seconds that. I don't think we need discussion.
Yes, we would need discussion to give an opportunity for everyone to.
Okay, we do need discussion. We'll go to Commissioner Bolmarsich and then Commissioner Thompson.
This is completely unrelated to Commissioner Herron's motion. Thank you for the recognition, Madam Chair. This is Commissioner Bomersich. There is a state division of civil rights. Would it be helpful to bring them in on this?
I think it would make sense. Nikki, would you think it would be helpful to have the State Division of Civil Rights involved in this process?
I will definitely reach out to see what is able to be done. If they have any experience with providing training of that sort in the past, in terms of the legislature, to see the legislative branches, rather, to see the legislative bodies, rather, to see if any of that training has been done in the past.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you. This is Commissioner Thompson. I like the idea of pulling in the Civil Rights Office. I'm just very concerned of the openness to want to participate in the training and to be able to have that make it more of a buy-in or mandatory for them to receive the training because it's, I have some doubts. I have some doubts if they're willing to be open to work with everyone. And so do we need more than just what we have now? Like, do we need to have other commission join us? We have the Governor's Council on the Blind. We have several other councils. Should we come together as a coalition of different councils of various disabilities communities to discuss the training needed for ADA to not only for the deaf, deafblind, CVHR, hard of hearing, the whole spectrum, but everyone else, because I think this is just a small piece and they really need to understand just how many voters there are in the disability community, period. That's just my soapbox.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Herron.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of discussion on how and all of that. I think we need to go ahead and give that to the interim director, allow her to do her research. I do agree with Commissioner Thompson. There's definitely more power when it comes to including others and other commissions as well. If we do partner with the a wider disability community, we will need to make sure that we include accommodations for everyone who is disabled. As far as interpreting services, that's really a separate beast in and of itself. And they might say, oh, yes, we've hired an interpreter, but the interpreter left and we can't stop the meeting due to that. So that's not an issue just with the state legislature. I've worked with corporate companies. It's the same issue all around. If the interpreter leaves, the meeting continues to move on, and I was left out oftentimes. So I do think that the requirement needs to be more specific. And they need to understand how to avoid the instance of an interpreter needing to leave. Just like another commissioner mentioned, it needs to be at the top of their agenda. We need more specifics related to communication for those that are deaf. So I would like to go back to that motion that I just recently made.
Thank you, Commissioner Herron. I do agree that we should continue with the motion on the floor. We have a motion on the floor to task our interim executive director to look into providing a training to the state legislature on ADA accommodations. We have a second from Commissioner Kidd. I think we should move forward with a vote.
This is Commissioner Goodstein. Could we just ask for any objections and move forward? If there's no objections, it would carry. Thank you.
That's fair. Just giving our interpreter a moment to catch up while we were kind of signing over each other there. Okay. Are there any commissioners opposed to Commissioner Herron's motion? Seeing and hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Just a gentle reminder, it's now 7:31. We have two remaining agenda items, the ACDHH and DCS partnership and the cart provider shortage. We'll start with the ACDHH and DCS partnership. If my memory serves me well, it was Commissioner Scarborough who made this motion as well. And from what I recall, there were issues with the provision of accommodations by DCS to deaf parents with hearing children. If I remember correctly, this is a motion that was made in the summer. Nikki or Kyla, are you able to help me remember what happened? This is Nikki. If Kyla can jump in with some of the specifics, that may help as well. But it was in regards to a complaint filed or complaints filed um, and many issues at DCS. It was my understanding that DCS has hired someone in the role of, gosh, I would have to look at the specific information, but it was an ADA coordinator, perhaps, but we would start with that individual. They did create a position as a result of the complaints. This is Commission Chair Cienko. Okay. We will open the floor for discussion. Would any board members like to comment? Commissioner Kidd.
Commissioner Kidd, what exactly do we need to do here? Because I'm still not quite clear. So if there's nothing, I'm wondering if we should just hold it, table. Okay, let's see if I can do this right this time. I move that we table this motion to the next meeting.
So we don't need to table it because there's no actual motion at this point.
Well, how do I postpone it? I just feel like the DCS issue is pretty important. So how do we move it to the next meeting, this agenda item?
You can ask to have it listed on the next meeting's agenda.
Got it. Okay, well, I'm requesting, can we just maybe postpone this meeting item to the next agenda?
Okay, so we have a motion. No, it's not a motion.
No.
Okay.
Not a motion.
No.
We're not calling a motion. We can just handle this without a motion.
There is no motion.
Okay. All right. I guess with that said, we will have this agenda item on the next agenda at the next board meeting. Commissioner Herron says we don't need a motion for that, and I will go with what she says. Now, Commissioner Kidd, was there something that you would like to say before I move on to the next agenda item?
No, move forward, sorry.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the cart provider shortage. I do not recall who made this motion, but I see Commissioner Bolmarsich.
It was not a motion, it was a suggestion for future agenda items. So no motion has been made here yet, but I did bring the issue up, I forget when, back in November or December. Cart provider shortage, it's specifically in-person captioners that seem to be short of supply in the Phoenix area, and for all I know, the rest of Arizona. Remote captioners you can get with sufficient planning, but if you need an in-person captioner, that can be a problem. I've experienced that at my employer, ASU, multiple times. So I'm assuming it is the same with other firms. So the firm that ASU uses to provide captioning it's called Equal Access Services. On staff, they have only one captioner who will do in person. Partly this is a result of the pandemic. Captioners worked at home, and like a lot of people, they don't necessarily want to, drive and park and all that stuff, which is really inconvenient at a place like ASU. And I'm not sure what the board can do about it, but if I'm going to make a motion, I would move that we direct this matter to the attention of the Hard of Hearing subcommittee, have them look at it and report back to the full board. Is that okay? I'm waiting for Commissioner Herron to shake her head no.
Sounds good.
Commissioner Herron is saying it sounds good.
Yes, I second
And I
her
would like-
motion as well.
Okay, we have a motion made by Commissioner Bolmarsich that this agenda item will be referred to the Hard of Hearing subcommittee and then bring that back to the full board. Do you,
And when?
Commissioner Bolmarsich, do you want to add anything about timing by the next meeting? Would you like to add a time frame onto your motion?
Sure, let us say it's May 15th, right? So I move that the board task the Hard of Hearing subcommittee with looking into the availability of in-person cart providers in the Phoenix area and the state in general, and that they report back to the full board by the next board meeting. At least a preliminary report. Go ahead.
This is Board Chair Cienko. I do have a question. Just a question. I know that there's a motion on the floor, but I'm afraid I may be not understanding something here. Do we have a hard of hearing subcommittee? I know we have the interpreter licensure committee, but is there another subcommittee that I'm unaware of?
I think Fred and Melanie are on it. Is that right, Commissioner O'Rourke?
This is Commissioner O'Rourke. We have Fred Williams and I are on the Hard of Hearing Task Force. So as far as names go, that's what we are called, and we are a separate organization, but we are members of the Hard of Hearing group in Arizona.
All right. So I guess then the task force has no standing. So that voids the motion, correct?
This is Board Chair Cienko. I'm sorry. It seems like they're a separate entity. Is that what I'm hearing? They're not a part of the ACDHH board?
I can amend the motion further. I
Please.
move that the board request Michelle Michaels and Christy Abrams, who are the Director of Hard of Hearing Services and the Hard of Hearing Specialist, to look into the issue of whether there are in-person cart provider shortages in the Phoenix area and the state, and prepare a report to give to the board at the next meeting. Will that work?
Yes, I second the motion. I was going to suggest that
I
you
think that makes sense.
send this to Christy and Michelle.
Fantastic. Thank you. We now have a motion on the floor made by Commissioner Bolmarsich to task the Hard of Hearing Director and the Hard of Hearing Specialist to look into the in-person cart provider shortage and report back to the board. And we had a second from Commissioner Herron. Commissioner Herron, we do need to have discussion on the matter.
We should give people the opportunity if anyone's interested in the discussion. If not, we can close and go to a vote.
Thank you. Any further thoughts, comments, or input that you would like to bring to the board? Hearing and seeing none, discussion has closed. Any opposed to Commissioner Bolmarsich's motion? Seeing and hearing none, motion carries. All right. The next agenda item is future agenda items. I know that we have moved the discussion of the ACDHH DCS partnership to the next agenda. We will put that on our next agenda. Any other future agenda items? Commissioner Goodstein, yes.
This is Commissioner Goodstein. I'm not sure if we've had this discussion previously, but I would like to have some report on the availability of caregivers for the deaf and hard of hearing, deaf, blind, seniors, citizens community, because from my understanding is that's a big issue here. So I would like that I would like that put on the future agenda item.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Goodstein. I will make sure that Kyla notes that for our next agenda. Commissioner O'Rourke?
Sorry. This is Commissioner O'Rourke.
Okay.
We could back up a minute to that ACDHH and DCS partnership. Why exactly are we tabling that and not discussing it now?
The board has decided to table this agenda item because we have no further information on it. Commissioner Kidd, would you like to add?
This is Commissioner Kidd. The individual that moved that item, Commissioner Scarborough, is not present. And I feel that we do not have enough information as to what exactly we're discussing. We're tabling it in order for her to be able to provide further input as to what needs to be discussed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? I see Nikki. I can tell you what I just learned. We have a training scheduled with DCS. And the individual that we're working with is their resource coordinator slash cultural competency coordinator. We can report back at the next meeting about how that training went. I can provide that information in my next board report. This is Commissioner Cienko. Thank you, Nikki. I think that may be it for future agenda items. If you think of anything else that you would like added to the next agenda, you can always reach out to Kyla. And we will now entertain a motion to adjourn today's meeting, and I will give you some of your time back.
This is Commissioner Kidd. I move that we close this meeting.
And I second that. I'm starving. I don't think we need to have discussion here unless Commissioner Herron pops on and says that we do need discussion.
Yeah, we need a half an hour discussion. We need to think about if we actually want to adjourn. If no one opposes, we can go ahead and adjourn. But this was a great meeting today. It was wonderful.
Give yourself the pat on the back. I want to thank our informal parliamentarian here, Commissioner Herron. Thanks for navigating us through
Oh,
Robert's Rules of Order. It's going to take
you
some
are
time to
welcome.
get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, it's been a long time for me too. I need to review.
Thank you for transporting me back to my Gallaudet days. Have a good evening, everyone. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you at the next meeting. Bye bye.